Welcome to We and Lewes, a podcast dedicated to celebrating the remarkable, creative, and energetic people who live in Lewes and are helping our community forge a collective soul as appealing as it is unique. These are their stories in their words. They are the we in Lewes. I'm your host, Kevin McGinnis. Our guest today is Katy Ackerman, a popular calligrapher here in Lewes and the founder of the Lewes Lettering Co. Katy is well known for her exceptional and creative work. She offers custom wedding stationery and individually designed invitations for all major life events. Many of her projects aren't just event information, but also designed to tell a personal story. She also teaches calligraphy and sells a wide array of cards, journals, notebooks, planners, and art supplies out of her store on Front Street in downtown Lewes, right across from the 1812 Park. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at the Leanne Wilkinson Group of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services PenFed Realty. Leanne and her team have ranked number one in real estate in coastal Delaware for over 20 years, and literally a week after her fascinating We and Lewes podcast was aired, moved up from being the number two to the number one nationally ranked agency for the entire Berkshire Hathaway real estate network. Coincidence? We'll let you be the judge. Leanne and her team make it easy, whether you're buying, selling, or just searching for the perfect home to start a family or spoil grandchildren. I can personally attest they are simply terrific, and yes, we do spoil our grandchildren. Katy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Kevin. I'm very happy to be here today.
For most people in the United States, calligraphy is something that's sort of reserved for formal documents, the Constitution, what have you. But actually, it's an art form that dates back over 1100 BC, I think, in China, and as recently as 600 BC in Western Europe. That's not how folks here in the U.S. view it, right?
No, I think that when people think of calligraphy in these days, that, as you said, they're thinking about it for a very formal event, which is where I come in. Helping people with their wedding invitations has always been where I use my calligraphy the most. But people do come to me, asking if I can personalize a certificate or add a grandchild's name to this beautiful old family tree that was calligraphied years ago. So calligraphy is reserved for, heirlooms. Things that you want to stand the test of time. And when I design wedding invitations now, I think that calligraphy keeps things looking very traditional in a nice way, where they'll look at their invitation in 30 years and, see how it has become a family heirloom for them too.
So as I understand, there's been some arguments about whether calligraphy is an art, as the Chinese would believe, or if it's more of a craft. Or you're just copying something. There apparently are strong opinions on either side of that argument as well. Does your style, which is based on so much on individualized creativity in every piece you do you kind of put pay to the debate?
That's a great question. And so I'll back it up with, I have always been more math and business focused. So when I started doing this, a lot of my family and friends were surprised. Like, wait, what? You're doing art? My sister has always been much more artistic than I am. So when I think about calligraphy, what I love about it is that there's kind of a right answer to it. If you are trying to create a very old school copper plate calligraphy, every P needs to look like the next P. So every A, like the next A, there's supposed to be, you should make it look like it came out of a computer. So when I think about calligraphy, I see it more as a craft where I'm trying to create this, perfection. Surely people take that a whole bunch of ways. I also offer modern calligraphy styles where it's much more fun and loopy and flourished. So putting a much more modern spin on it. But yeah, I do see it as a craft. However, there are calligraphers out there who I've taken classes from who create beautiful art and certificates, and took a class under Jake Weidman a few years ago where we used a pen and ink, which is what I use every day, but we were drawing a horse and using all these big loopy flourishes. He took us step by step, and it was the most beautiful horse I've ever drawn, and I don't draw. So he was a great teacher and someone to look up if you're interested in how art or how calligraphy can translate into art. Whereas I see it as more of a craft as I'm trying to perfect my copperplate script.
But so you're drawing a script, a script that's already been established, but then you're also designing the entire invitation, if we're using wedding invitations as an example. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. My process looks like first writing my couple's name in calligraphy, and then I do that just on white paper with black ink. I scan it in, and I design the rest of the invitation around it using text fonts. So that is the basis of every single invitation suite I've ever made, is using my own calligraphy versus a typed computer script font.
How did you learn to be a calligrapher?
I'm mostly self-taught. So when we got engaged, my husband and I, Mike, got engaged in 2015. I started doing wedding research, and I saw all these beautiful, scripts all over envelopes and the invitations, and I knew I loved that look, but I also was 24 years old, so didn't want to go hire someone to do that for me. We were pinching pennies in every way to, pull this wedding together. So Michael bought me an $100 calligraphy course, and I went to Michael's and I bought all the wrong supplies. And then I opened up the course and I'm like, oh, I messed up. So then I reordered everything. And I took this online class and just practice. And it took about a year and a half until I liked my own work. But people started asking me to do little things for them probably 6 months in. So yeah, that's how I learned. I have taken some classes at a calligraphy conference from Pat Blair, who's a White House calligrapher, and Jake Weidman, as I mentioned, and Suzanne Cunningham, who is an amazing copperplate calligrapher. So in
some ways, you were your first client.
Yes, I was. Well, I intended to be my first client. So yeah, I do have pictures of writing notes to my sister and my best friend to be my bridesmaid, and the calligraphy is absolutely horrible, but that was my first little project for myself. And then as is in today's age, I started an Instagram account that I was following other calligraphers. I love watching other calligraphers do videos. As people tell me all the time, they love watching the videos of me writing something out, and I was doing that to emulate other people and learn how they form their letters, and it's very therapeutic to watch and to do. So that Instagram account was started to follow other people, but I started posting a little bit of what I was doing too. And from that, I had people from all walks of my life reaching out. Oh, I wanted this poem for my sisters. Will you write this? And I probably did 15 drafts, and she needed 2 of them. So that was probably just, about 6 months in. And when it was time to do my own wedding invitations, about a year after I had started, I was doing them at like 11 o'clock at night because my other hours of free time were doing other people's projects.
You seemed from the outset, even before you actually felt you were a calligrapher, you were involved with social media. So you were able to use that perhaps as a marketing advice.
Sure.
Yeah. You embraced a medium that most of us of a certain age find absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. I still find it terrifying. I mean,
well, that's a comfort for some of us.
Yes, exactly. I now work with an awesome social media manager that I know, Matt, at Kindle, and Half Full uses too. She is wonderful, and she has all the energy for it. Whereas now making reels and stories and all that, it's too much. But back when I began, I was, simply posting a picture of the day, which was good enough at that time. And it brought people my way. Mostly it was little odd jobs here and there, but the business really took off when I was connected with some other stationery companies that were designing wedding invitations for couples, and they used me as a subcontractor. So, for example, there's a great shop in Philadelphia called Chick Invitations, and their couples didn't really know I existed. I was their subcontractor. They would send me 200 envelopes, and I'd send it back to them within 2 weeks, all calligraphied. So that is when the business really started to grow, because I had a constant stream of work from them and a couple other of great shops too, like Whimsy in Greenville, Delaware, which is really popular spot for people who vacation here. They come to my store and they say, "Oh, this looks like Whimsy," and I'm like, "Yeah." because because I love everything they do. So anyway, I've worked with them for a long time, and that is where things really took off.
But at this time, you were still working in another job.
Yeah. So when I moved down to Lewes, right out of college, I graduated on a Thursday, and I started at the Dogfish Head tasting room on a Monday.
Really?
And it was the best summer and turned into a year and a half of my life. I love that team. And yeah, we had so much fun together. It was a work hard, play hard kind of place. And yeah, so I worked in the tasting room. I did tours. I was the hostess. So on a rainy summer day, there were 1,000 people walking through the door, and organizing all those tours that they wanted to go on was fun. So anyway, I started doing calligraphy after we got engaged, and that was about a year into working at Dogfish. Yeah.
And you also then were at the Dogfish Hotel here in town, right?
Yes. So I got busy enough with calligraphy that I knew it was going to go somewhere, but I needed it to go somewhere in baby steps because I was only 24 at the time, and I was surely not going to quit my job to go out on a limb. So a spot opened up at the Dogfish Inn, and I knew Andrew Greeley a little bit, who was running it, and knew I'd love to work for him. So I moved over there and started working part-time for them. So I left more room in my days to do these calligraphy projects and all these envelopes that were getting sent to me. And then I was at the Dogfish Inn a couple days a week.
When you were growing up, when you were thinking about what are you going to be, when people asked you, what are you going to be when you grow up? Did you ever answer calligrapher?
No, definitely not. So when I went to school, I didn't know what my major would be, but I was good at math. So I was a math major for 2 years of college. And then I got to differential equations or something like that. And I was like, oh, wait, never mind. So a quick pivot. I went down the management track. So I loved the professors there, and I started taking management courses, which have served me well. But I never once took an art class in high school or in college. So yeah, it's not exactly what I expected to be doing. However, the business side of things has worked out in my favor, that I have that under my belt.
So was there a moment when you realized, hey, this could actually be a business unto itself?
Yeah.
I don't have to work at Dogfish. Was there a moment when that happened?
I think, as I said, I needed to go in baby steps. So when I took that step to go part-time, I had more time in my schedule to be taking on a little bit more calligraphy work, and something special happened during that part of my life where I had brides who were working with me on just their envelopes. And during that time, I had couples I was working with or who were reaching out for my calligraphy, but they said, well, I still need the invitations. You do that too, right? And I said, no, I don't design wedding invitations. Here's this person. I referred out to all these great sources who were sending me envelopes. I was pushing the work back to them, which was great. For the years I did that, I was glad to give them that business back, but it helped me realize that, oh, maybe this is a part of the business that I should consider growing. So I had a friend who lived down here at the time who did design wedding invitations. She helped me wrap my brain around it. I had a coworker at Dogfish who was a trained graphic designer. She would give me little tips and tricks about how to create a clipping mask in Illustrator. And, we were at work and she tried to explain these things to me, and I would take it home and try it and come back the next day and say, oh, it worked. It looked really cool. So I am also a self-taught wedding invitation designer. Graphic design, I've never taken a class in it, but I do keep my invitations fairly simple. They are based on my calligraphy. That is like the shining star in a suite of mine is the calligraphy I've created and scanned in and designed around. So it's, you look at them, they're pretty simple and they're very classic. And I've learned to do more and more along the years, creating cool patterns and, adding neat artwork. But anyway, that is how it's grown to become a full-time wedding invitation design studio where we now offer calligraphy envelopes to those clients we work with.
When you're thinking about then, I can do this full time, were you imagining a store, or did the store come second?
Yeah, great question. So it got so busy with those wedding invitation designs that those people, I needed to have consultations with them. I needed to sit down with them and show them paper samples and things like that. And I was doing that at Station on Kings or the Starbucks on Route 1. And I just realized, I'm like, oh, if this is going to go somewhere, I need to have a spot of my own. So we started looking around town. I talked to the post office. They have some cool offices upstairs, and looked at those. Nothing was available, but they had me on their list to take over. And then COVID hit. And the idea of opening a store had always been in the back of my mind, but really at that time, what I was looking for was a space to meet with clients. So my husband and I were walking around downtown in early April 2021 during COVID. And 2020 during COVID. And we walked past what is now Lewes Lettering Co. And there was a for rent sign in the window. And if you know Lewes at all, you know that you never see an empty storefront with a for rent sign in it. So we're like, what? We didn't believe it. So I called the number immediately, got on the phone with Dick Perez, who is a great guy. And he's like, sure, come on down. I'll meet you there in 2 days. So looked at the spot and realized it was set up absolutely perfect because the previous tenant put a wall in the center of the shop. She needed a private office space and then had like more of a living room, essentially. So when we saw that, I'm like, amazing. I have this room for a consultation studio, the design studio where I can sit with clients, and then all this space for retail. I mean, when I say all this space, it's a few hundred square feet, but it lent itself perfectly to being both of those things for me. So.
Now, did you have, as you were starting this business, did you have a business plan worked out?
I have always wanted to go into retail. I think it seemed very romantic to me. That's
not normally a word associated with retail.
I know, this idea of having a space where people can come and, see all these neat greeting cards that we sell and just getting to be part of town in that way. I always loved the idea of it. And I did work in retail in high school, and I just always thought it was fun. Now it's still romantic. Like, I love working on a Saturday and meeting all these people, both locals and visitors who come in and chatting with them. I love that part of it. There's a lot of headaches too with.
Did you open your store? Was COVID done? Because COVID was wreaking havoc all over the world, including in Lewes, with regard to retail stores.
Yeah, that's a great question. So COVID was interesting for my business because I was in the wedding industry. So
and there are no weddings.
No weddings. Yeah. So in March, I started getting emails and calls from all my clients that I had booked for their wedding invitations saying, I think we need to postpone it. I don't know what we're going to do. And by late March, it was like, everything's off the books. It's all gone. And I think I was bored for about 2 weeks. And then we saw the for rent sign. So the silver lining was that I had all that time to dedicate to turning a blank space into a retail store and that consultation studio. So anyway, that's what my COVID journey looked like, was being in there from 6 a.m. till midnight, getting everything ready. I was so lucky. My best friend lived with me that summer. She's from the DC area, and she wanted to live at the beach. COVID, it didn't stop her. So she came down and she helped me get it all ready. So we did that for a month and a half. And then on June 15th, on the same day that we went to phase 2, I think that's what they called it, phase 2, where there was allowed to be 30% occupancy in a retail space, that is the day we opened.
When you opened your store, do you still remember your first customers or your first consultation?
Yeah. So a friend of ours sent a bride my way in May of 2020. So we were still working on the shop, getting it set up, but this bride asked, okay, can I come in to meet with you? And I'm like, I don't know, but we made it look nice enough that we could have that consultation. And she came in and we sat down, we talked through her invite. She picked out exactly what she wanted. And after that meeting, after she booked, I was like, oh, this is going to work. Like, build it and they will come. Like, that's how I felt. I'm like, I built this shop to have these meetings and it is going to all work out. She's a wonderful bride, and she lives in town. I did her bridal shower invitations, and they are still on display in the shop because they're a bit Lily Pulitzer themed, which people always love and comment on. So yeah, that was my first wedding client through the shop. And I gave me all the confidence to see that it was going to go somewhere.
And do you also design or draw some of for other stores here in town?
Yeah, I've worked with other shops, most notably Heirloom. So when Megan opened her restaurant almost 10 years ago, she contacted me to do the logo. So she had seen something I posted on my Instagram, and I just had this cute stationery that had some corn and grapes and artichokes. It was like a farmer's market stationery, and I wrote local love on it. And after that, she contacted me and said, I saw what you did, and I want you to do my logo for my restaurant that I'm opening. And I was like, okay, I wrote that on a scrap piece of paper. That does not mean I'm qualified to create a logo for a restaurant. So we first met at Nectar and sat down, and I mean, we mulled over every single thing. Like, the H should look like this, the E like this. I mean, I wrote Heirloom probably 500 times during that process, and it took us months because I didn't know what I was doing, how to digitize it and turn it into a logo. But she helped me, was very patient with me, and we eventually created that Heirloom logo and some of the other signage that she has throughout her menus now. And every month or other month, I do her chalkboards still. So I don't do many chalkboards for any other places in town. I used to, but I just don't have the time, except for Megan, because I can walk in the back door, I get it done, and she's a good friend of mine. So it's fun. It's fun to do it for her. Yeah.
So when you sell cards, when you sell some of these products, what sort of volume are we talking about?
Yeah. So last year, did my research before coming in, we sold 4,000 greeting cards over the year. And this year we're almost up to 2,000. So that is our number one selling product. It's they're small ticket items, but we sell so many of them throughout the year. And I love picking them out. That's actually the most fun part of my job.
Do you
probably.
go to a show, a convention? Or?
Yeah. So every year in July, me and my best friend or me and my sister go to Atlanta for America's Mart. It is so big. It is so overwhelming. And only a portion of what we do is shop for the store. We mostly shop for ourselves. But it's very fun to see what cool new stuff is out there. And then there's, great places that I can place those wholesale orders throughout the year. But it's just such a good time to look through all these cards and find things for very specific occasions. Find stuff that's funny, stuff that's beautiful, that's going to appeal to every different person that walks in the store.
Lewes is a small town. Where do your customers come from?
So we work with customers all over the country and even outside of the country. So for example, this year we are doing about 55 weddings. Only a handful of those people live and are getting married in Lewes. A lot of them have a second home in Lewes, or their parents do, so they come here and they come into the shop. They love our work, and they work with us. So they're able to come into the store and sit down and see everything in person, which is great. But we also work with so many wedding planners that bring their couples our way. So I'd say probably 90% of our consultations are over Zoom. So we're meeting with people in New York and Philly, California. I have some Texas and Colorado brides this year, and they are getting married in even more far-reaching places. I'm doing multiple Italian weddings this year on Lake Como. We have 2 that are in France, which look absolutely beautiful, and worked with a couple in Switzerland. So it is the digital age. In fact, I love being in Lewes because I get all the benefits of a small town while also servicing those clients so widely throughout the country. For example, the UPS driver, Colin, you all might know him. He is one of my best friends out there. I consider him my coworker. And the post office employees, Carly, and we just have a new friend, Elliot. Bill, who was the old postmaster, he used to call me Trouble. That was his nickname for me. He'd say, "Oh, here comes trouble," because I am always sending wedding invitations from Lewes, Delaware. But I'm so lucky that I have amazing postal employees who kind of let me get away with a lot of stuff. And yeah, it's so fun to run my business from the small town where I get to know the people I work with very well. And if I were in a large metropolis, that, I might not have my UPS driver's cell phone number.
You're not the normal business owner here in Lewes. You're a bit from a different generation. Did you become a point of pride for some kind of a, come see, look, we're attracting new business people?
I think that in this era, yes, I was one of the few 27-year-old business owner at that time. But I'm looking at Matt DeSabatino across the room, and I'm like, I think you were 20 when you opened Striper Bites, something like that, 25. Okay, so he's got me beat by 2 years. There's Josh, who has a amazing store, Shore Break. He's got 2 young kids. Michelle, who owns the candy store, has a great son too. So I think that, yes, in that small span of time, I was the youngest, but there's many who have come before me who started their businesses before they had their families and now, have years under their belt, but they did it all while raising young families, which is great inspiration for me.
The downtown Lewes business community is very small. Do you look out for one another? Help each other if needed?
Absolutely. Yeah. When strange things happen, we're always, going around to each other, making sure everybody's okay. Not that happens very often at all, but, we're there to celebrate each other. And I'd say, every time a man walks into my shop looking a little lost to buy a card for his wife or girlfriend, I question him a little bit. What you doing? What do you need? Oh, I need a birthday card, or it's our anniversary. And I'm like, okay, here's the card you need. And then you're going to walk across the street, and Heidi Lowe is right there. You'll get her something nice. And then if you go get the Edie B's truffles, you're gold. So I love to personal shop for those lost men. So I'd say that we're a team where we all offer something different, and I love nothing more than to point customers who are visiting and don't know our town very well. I love pointing them around to make sure they hit all the spots.
You didn't grow up here in Lewes.
No.
But you grew up in Pennsylvania, is that right?
Yes. My husband and I are both from Malvern, PA, which is right outside of Valley Forge Park.
Was yours an artistic family?
No. Again, my sister was a little bit more artsy than I was, but no, my dad ran his own consulting business. My mom, she actually was an interior designer before she had 4 kids, and pivoted a little bit from that. So yeah, maybe she does have a creative brain in that sense, but it's not the traditional, I don't have any painters or sculptors in my family. Oh.
And you've mentioned your sister. So is it the 2 of you?
No, I'm the oldest of 4.
You're the oldest of 4.
Which might explain a lot.
And it was here where you, I believe in high school, where you met your husband, Michael.
Yes. We have known each other since I think I was 15, and I knew his sister first, then babysat for his youngest sister. I guess him and his older sister were too busy to babysit her, so that's where I came in. And then finally I met him through friends, and so we started dating on my 17th birthday. He asked me, will you be my girlfriend, in that very old school traditional way, and that was 15 years ago. Yeah. And
did you know at the time that he was the one?
I sure hope so. I was like, oh my gosh, I thought he was so cute. And I sure hope so. I guess I should say it like that. I don't think right away we knew it would last that long, but when we went off to colleges and all that, we had put a lot of work into it.
But when you went off to college, you didn't go to the same school.
No. So my husband went to the United States Merchant Marine Academy in Kings Point, New York, and I went to Gettysburg College. Those 2 experiences were very different. So I think things worked out. I mean, they would have worked out either way, but I can say that if he wanted to have the fun college experience, he had to come to Gettysburg. So every couple of weeks, I'd say every 3 weeks, he was coming to visit me. He drove a lot and would usually bring a friend or two because they all wanted to be able to have a little fun. So, yeah.
I don't ever think anyone's really associated the Merchant Marine Academy as a place that you go for good college fun.
Oh, no, definitely not.
Did he then enjoy the being at Gettysburg and getting to meet your friends and sort of hanging out?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Like my best friends are his sisters. Like he's essentially lived with them for, years at a time. And when he had graduated, I was still in school. I had one more year left. So during that year, he moved to Lewes, but he came to Gettysburg for a week at a time and truly became part of the friend group during that year. Yeah.
Did the fact that you both had one of life's major decisions worked out at a very young age, did that way provide a little stability, maybe add a little maturity to how you looked at your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when I moved here, he came to Lewes, and then as soon as I graduated, started a Dogfish, and I think that it was nice to know, I've got this partner through it all, and if we move to Philadelphia next summer, we're moving together. But then we both love Lewes enough that we're like, no, we're not going to do that. And I had someone else to bounce all those decisions off of. And we loved Lewes so much that, even if I didn't have a huge community at that time when I was 24, I had him, and we had so much fun together here. And then as we, decided to stay and bought our house, we met so many wonderful people. And now we absolutely love where we live.
Now, you mentioned you were the oldest of all the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Were you also then, given the fact that the things with Michael seemed to be working out, you were the oldest, so you were trained this anyway, were you the responsible one in the group in college?
Oh, in college? Oh, yeah. I wasn't out looking for a fling, so I definitely didn't go to as many parties as my, other girls did, but I had great friends who we loved being together. We didn't need that part of it.
One of the great challenges for any marriage is to understand where the marriage really is in the life priority list. Is the marriage first, and then you build careers around it? Or is it the other way around? You have your career, and then you try to accommodate a marriage. I'm guessing for you, the marriage was the center around how you designed the rest of your lives together. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I mean, we've never not been together and working. So Michael came out of school and he worked 3 weeks on and 3 weeks off offshore. And we made that work. And then when I started the business, I mean, he was my first employee. He proofread envelopes. He's, created every sign you've ever seen me post on Instagram. He sawed it, cut it up, sanded it, stained it, all that good stuff. So our work lives have always, they just naturally came second because we have been together so long. So when Lewes Lettering Co began, he was a huge driver behind it, and it's the reason it's here. I mean, I'm so lucky to have had the most supportive husband ever who pushed me. I mean, sometimes I'm like, stop pushing me. I just want to be lazy. But he's like, no, you can do this. You can do that. Yeah. And if you open the shop, we'll do it this way. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. But he's always helped. So he's my number one trash man. I mean, he's just always in there helping me out.
Did he come to Lewes because he wanted to be a Bay River pilot?
No, he came to Lewes because he is an avid surfer. So our very good friends from high school have a house here, and Michael used to come down with his friend pretty much every weekend to surf during high school. So he knew Lewes in that way. And then when he was working for 3 weeks and having 3 weeks off, during those 3 weeks off, he could live wherever he wanted and do whatever he wanted. So he surfed. And that is why we first came to Lewes. And yeah, after that, we never left. Where his job came into play is that he did get to know other pilots, and he knew of the profession because of the school he went to. He made great friends, one of whom was your past podcaster, Stuart Griffin. Stuart and him surfed together a little too often for my a little bit too often, but no, they're great friends, and Stuart really showed Michael what that life would be like, and was a huge part of bringing him into the fold, which we're eternally grateful for.
Having known from experience, if someone is a really, really dedicated surfer, they tend to disappear at certain times because the surf is good. It's not necessarily it's appropriate for work or something like that, but the surf is good, so you better accommodate that.
Yes, I know. So you could be a golf widow or you could be a surf widow. I don't think being a golf widow would be very fun. It's 8 hours long, but at least it's scheduled. So when the surf is good, he will whisper at 10 p.m., hey, can I go surfing at 5 in the morning? I'm like, okay, well, we'll be back. And when we were before kids, it did not matter. But now that we have kids, it's a little, I roll my eyes maybe a little bit too often. But it is his exercise. It is how he reconnects with nature and all these beautiful things. So no, I'm happy for him that he has a hobby that he loves so much. But
oh, did you try?
No, he really wants me to get out there, but no, I told him, I'm like, I will come with you wherever you want to surf as long as I can bring a book and sit on the beach. So that is what I'd much prefer to do.
I think everyone would agree it's not easy running a business, especially a retail business. And it's not easy running a business if your spouse has a job that's basically the polar opposite of a routine 9-to-5 position. And it's really hard if you then add 2 small children into the mix. How do you manage life with so many balls in the air?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I'm managing it, but I wake up every morning at 5 a.m. to do envelopes for an hour and a half before the girls wake up. So it's my peace and quiet. It's like my coffee, my podcast. I listen to you.
All right.
Yeah. Listen to the daily, catch up on yours. Yeah. And it's my moment of peace. Every day is different, and there is a great support staff behind us that makes it all work. I have now 5 amazing employees. So I don't have to be in the shop to run the shop, for like the day in and day out. I usually have someone who's there for me. And as for the girls, we've got an amazing team of babysitters, in-laws, all that good stuff, who are around to help with that. So every day is a little bit different. Very rarely do I work 8 hours straight. I mean, I can't think of the last time I worked 8 hours straight because it's usually run home for this, pick Janie up at school, drop her off, go grab groceries in the middle of the day so that you don't fight Route 1. But I have all that flexibility because of all these great people who help us. And when Michael's home, he is home. He finds lots of projects to do, but he doesn't bring work home with him. So when he's back, he's full on dad. Yeah.
Now, how old are the girls?
So my oldest is 3, and I have a 19-month-old, Ellie. Yeah.
Those are very hard jobs
Yeah.
at that age. Good for them. Do you bring them to the store?
Yeah, all the time. And we pull up, and my baby is in the back. Mama shop, mama shop, mama shop. And Janie learned how to use the register now so she can scan greeting cards. And we even, our friends got her a cash register at home. So that was her birthday present. So I'm trying to teach her how to do math. But yeah, she'll be I truly think when she's maybe 8 or 9, she'll be able to sit at the front counter and ring people up, and it'll be fabulous. She is very excited about it. If you ask her, she will tell you that is where she's going to work when she's a grown up.
And the 19-month-old?
Yeah, I don't know about her. She doesn't sit still. We'll see. I'll find something for her.
You're not coming to the store today.
Yeah, no. And even when Janie was at that age, I mean, there's too many fragile things at their eye level. I'm like, put them in a bubble when they walk into the shop.
I know you do a lot with a historic Lewes Farmers Market. That seems to be very much a part of your weekly life, if you will.
Yeah. So back when I didn't know many people in Lewes, I actually volunteered for them. And I got to know a lot of the other volunteers and Sharon, who I love. As my schedule got busier and I wasn't able to do that, I always help them with their chalkboards and signage and things like that, and donated to them in the past to keep the market running because it is our favorite place. We just adore the farmers market, and then it runs at Blockhouse Pond, and it's just in our backyard, essentially. We live right behind there. So, I'm just so glad that that is a part of our weekly lives here in Lewes.
Does Lewes allow you to have a lifestyle that could well prove impossible in a different setting? I'm sure your potential customer base would be much larger if you were living in an urban environment, but would you be able to juggle all you have to juggle if it were not for the lifestyle that Lewes can accommodate?
Yeah, great question, because no, I don't think if I had a 20-minute commute, there's no way I'd be bouncing all over town like I do on any given day. I go to the post office daily, but usually multiple times a day to mail invitations out, and they are a mere 10 steps from my store. Our printer is right up the road, Print Coast to Coast. I run up there a few times a week too. My daughter goes to preschool at Bethel. We can truly live in like a 1 mile radius in Lewes, and I'm so grateful that everything is as close as it is so that I can be such a big part of my children's lives by picking my daughter up at preschool and then running her home or getting her lunch at Nectar, going on a little date, and then being back at work just a half hour later.
Katy, thanks for talking to us today, for sharing your story and your experience, and for some of the advice you've provided today, which can be very helpful. For those listening, I'm sure there's a birthday, anniversary, apology, or some such event coming up where a card could really help. So don't forget to visit her store on Front Street, right across from the 1812 Park. It's the one with the cannons. And thanks to our sponsor, the Leanne Wilkinson Group. The real estate market here remains as hot as ever, even better than last year, and no one knows this market as well as Leanne. And finally, thank you for listening. If you check out our website, you can find additional information about our guest in the bonus section in the descriptions of many of the episodes. For example, you can hear how Megan Key's love affair led to her having recommendations not yet received by Disney on how to redesign one of her favorite restaurants there. A robot Sam telling the Dogfish Head story, and Richard Martin talking about modeling a spacesuit in the U.S. Senate and handling a troublesome astronaut. On behalf of all of us here at the podcast, we hope you're having a wonderful summer and enjoying the remarkable city of Lewes and relishing all it has to offer. We'll talk soon. Until next time, this has been We in Lewes, the podcast.